Hello, welcome back to Feminine Roadmap Health and Wellness. And today our expert is Victoria Price. She's the author of Living Love, 12 Heart-Centered Practices. And today Victoria is going to be sharing with us 3 unexpected words that can transform your life. Victoria, thank you so much for saying yes to me today.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a big believer in saying yes.
Yes is a good word most of the time, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Awesome. Well, I would love to have you share with us your message of 3 unexpected words that can transform your life.
I look forward to it. I've got a whole little panoply of slides that walk you through it, but I'm not going to tell you what the 3 words are because otherwise then you'd expect them.
Got to keep them unexpected, right?
Exactly. So I want to tell you about 3 unexpected words that can transform your life. And it came about that I recognized these 3 unexpected words when I went to dinner with someone I've never seen before or since. And he is a film location manager, goes all over the world finding locations for movies. And I was having dinner with him and a couple of friends of mine, one of whom is also a film location manager. And he was talking about going to see Wadi Rum, this beautiful, beautiful area in Jordan with just these beautiful rocks and cliffs. And he said when he was there, he could not get the 3 words that T.E. Lawrence, as in Lawrence of Arabia, used to describe them: vast, echoing, and godlike. And he said to himself, God, wouldn't it be amazing to be able to distill a place down to its 3 essential words? And because he travels all over the world for work and is also a traveler in general, he began to play that game with himself. So everywhere he goes, he thinks of 3 essential words to distill down the essence of a place. So as I was driving home that night, I thought, oh my gosh, that is the coolest idea. 3 essential words. And it was an April evening, but it was snowing and the windshield wipers were slapping back and forth. And I thought, God, what a fantastic idea. And as I was sort of mesmerized by the windshield wipers going back and forth, I thought, I have 3 words. I have 3 words. In fact, they're the 3 words that I have been thinking over and over again. But my 3 words didn't feel exciting or vast, echoing, and godlike. They didn't feel really 100% good at all. What they did feel was true. So to give you a little context, I was given 9 weeks to leave my place of residence. I didn't get an eviction notice, but I just thought that was a cute little slide. Basically, I was living in a place I absolutely adored. I was on the road about 250 nights a year. And I'd made this deal with my landlord who owned the place and was trying out a different place to live. And I wanted to buy his place, but he wasn't ready to sell it because he was trying a new place. So we made a deal that he would try it for X amount of time and I would live there. And then at some point I would buy the place. And we sort of had a time frame for that. But because we had this wonderful agreement with one another, we made an additional gentleman's agreement. And the gentleman's agreement was that if either of us, because we were both creatives and entrepreneurs, needed to get out of our arrangement, we would give each other 2 months' notice. Well, you know how when you make an agreement like that, it's your movie. In my movie, it was like, well, I'm on the road 250 nights a year. If something comes up, this is absolutely perfect. I'll be able to get out of it. 2 months, whew, fantastic. That was my movie. Well, I was working in Austin and I made the mistake of checking my email at 2 a.m. Now, the first thing I learned from that, and this is maybe the most important piece of wisdom I'm going to share with you today, never check your email at 2 a.m. Nothing good can come of it. Really nothing. If it's a bad thing, it's going to keep you up at night. It's going to keep you up all night. It's going to be way worse at 2 a.m. than it will be at 7 or 8 a.m. If you're looking for the love of your life at 2 a.m, first of all, what are they doing up? So probably not the best time or place, unless you really are a night owl, to be looking for the love of your life. And if it's good, honestly, it can wait and you should get a good night's sleep. So really, we could end the entire talk right here and my say, never check your email at 2 a.m. But at that point, I didn't know that. And so I had been checking my email and it said, I've lost my main client and I need to sell the place within 2 months. And I was like, what? So first of all, I had a 16-year-old dog. Second of all, I loved where I lived. Third of all, he gave me 9 weeks, one more than 2 months. Of those 9 weeks, I was only going to be home 3 of those weeks because I had speaking gigs that I couldn't cancel. And last but not least, I had jury duty. So I was like, oh my God. So I kept kind of hearing in my mind what I was supposed to do, but I didn't want to pay attention. What I heard was, let it all go. But that scared the heck out of me. So I tried over and over again to try to fix the situation, to find a storage area. Well, for all the stuff that I had, it would have cost me way more than rent to store someplace, to find a temporary place, like a crappy little apartment where I could put everything in and just come crash. That didn't happen because where I was living, Santa Fe, New Mexico, has a horrible renter's market. And I was not in the place to buy it within 9 weeks. So loud and clear, I kept hearing, let it all go. But then the questions came up. Where are you going to live? How are you going to make a living? And then other people started to ask me questions because I did decide to let it all go. I finally listened after trying everything and it failed. I decided to let it all go. And I sold almost everything I own. And then people were like, are you going to come back here? Will you be safe on the road? Is this really what you should be doing? Question after question. And literally, there was only one answer to those questions. I don't know. I didn't know. I had no idea. And so what I was realizing was I wasn't just being asked to let go of my home, the business that I based out of there, my personal possessions, but also my whole old sense of identity. And I was also being asked to let go of the idea that knowing is the answer. And so I was being given the opportunity to be free. Yes, to just go out and reinvent myself, except that I'm not a trust fund baby. I didn't have financial resources to do that. I sold enough to get myself started. But really, what I was being asked to do was to enter into unknowing. So this is a wonderful, wonderful poem that came up at that time. And I'm going to share it because this is really the process that I went through. I had to enter into unknowing and remain there, knowing nothing. How does that feel? Scary, because we've been trained since the time we were kids that knowing is the answer. Nobody gives you an A on a test if you say, I don't know the answer. As you get older, if you say, somebody asks you, what are you supposed to do? And you say, I don't know, they look at you like you have a big problem. And if your boss says, how are we going to solve this? And you say, I don't know, you're probably getting fired. So to not know is not at all how our society works. Furthermore, the ridiculous part is because at the end of the day, we really don't know, which is what we are all experiencing right now. We all are very clear that nobody knows anything and that we are not being led by the people who are supposed to be leading us because they don't know or don't even want to know in some cases. We're all recognizing just how much unknowing we all live in. And as we are all seeing right now, that is a radically redemptive opportunity because it's an opportunity to recognize that what we don't know might scare us, but what we don't know is also the solution. So I entered into unknowing and remained there, knowing nothing. Now that was uncomfortable because I was trained to want to know. So if I drove out one day and I thought, where am I going to end up? And the answer was, I don't know. I immediately began to look at a map or began to reserve hotel rooms or try to find a campground or figure out what I was supposed to know. What I was supposed to know was nothing. And slowly but surely, as I realized that every time I made a plan and it didn't work out, and I was being asked to know nothing, I recognized that I was being asked to go to a place that actually transcends all thought. Well, who told us that that was a good idea. We've been taught to think our entire lives. But I was being asked to go to a place that transcends problem solving and being in control, a place that transcends all thought. And slowly but surely, a little bit kicking and screaming, I realized that whoever arrives in the land of unknowing frees herself of herself. So why would we want to do that? Well, we are a compendium of all the things we have been taught to know and believe. We have been taught to know and believe what we're supposed to do, who we're supposed to be, the kinds of people we're supposed to be around, what we believe about this, what we're supposed to do if this and that happens. And as we're all learning right now, that's not always possible. And we're all completely at a loss. Everybody wants to run back to normal. Everybody is hoping that I'm going to get back to work. And yet, as things open up, people are realizing, well, I can't just run back to work because the whole idea of work is different. The whole idea of who we're working with or how we're working or working for is different. You can't just pick up the plans and go back on your summer vacation because some of those plans are impossible. There's no planes going, or you don't want to get on a plane, or. And all of a sudden, if you can actually get to that place, I'm going to go back, the place of knowing nothing, a place that transcends all thoughts, you recognize there is this freedom from an old way of being. And from that place of freedom, you can actually figure out who in your heart you actually are. Everything she thought she knew falls away, and her consciousness expands to enfold the whole universe. That was written in the 1600s by John of the Cross, but it's a beautiful feminine-centered translation by the incredible Mirabai Starr. And she actually sent this to me at a time when I really needed it. So if we're willing to let everything we thought we knew fall away and have our consciousness expand to unfold the whole universe, imagine what could happen. Because what I think we're realizing is that's the only way everything's going to change. I had the good fortune of learning this 4 years ago when I began this journey, and I had to let everything I knew fall away. So I am somebody who has come to understand that when we want to change our lives, instead of viewing something as a problem and setting about fixing that problem, we have to create a practice. And it has to be a heart-centered practice. A practice is very different than problem solving. Problem solving says there's an issue over here and I'm going to have at fixing it. A practice says, what do I want to be able to embody from my heart and live out from? And I wanted to live out from a place of unknowing. I wanted to practice my I don't know and see what it had to teach me. I called it invoking my I don't know. So invoke is to call on something for inspiration or to appeal to something or someone as an authority. I wanted to ask my I don't know to tell me what I needed to know, not from a place of my head, but from my heart. I had to invoke the I don't know in my head to be able to invite my heart to become my authority. I had to appeal to my heart, AKA the conduit to love with the big L, the capital L, to become my authority. To do that, I had to face down certain myths. The first one is the myth of certainty. As children, we're encouraged not to know at first. You know, we want kids to say, I don't know, because then we're going to become curious and we're going to create and we're going to learn and grow by saying, I don't know how to do that. I want to learn. But as I've said earlier, when we get older, not knowing is perceived as ignorance. We're judged or punished for it. Also, as we get older, that not knowing that is joyful as a kid scares us. And safety and security become our gods. Even things that don't work, if they make us feel safe, we'll buy into them. Take health insurance, for example. There is absolutely no one that I know who thinks that health insurance actually is a system that works. It doesn't. Everybody knows that. But everybody pours a ton of money into it because what is the alternative? We don't know what the alternative is. But I'll tell you what it isn't. It isn't just paying money into something that doesn't work. If there is going to be an alternative, it has to be a willingness to figure out how to have safety and security that come from a false place, not be our gods. Richard Rohr, whose living school I just graduated from last year, says, and this is pretty powerful and shocking, the human being ego prefers knowing and being certain to being honest. That's terrifying. Because really what it's saying is we would rather know and be certain than be honest that we don't know. We're seeing this every single day from the world leadership who really know nothing. But they can't get up on a TV screen and say, we don't know, although actually we'd all be relieved if they did. If they all said, we don't know, and look, we're in a world where we don't know, and we all have to actually invoke our I don't know together. But what we do know is that we're human beings capable of love and collaboration and connection, and that much we do know. That much we do know is that love unifies us all. If we could all be honest about that and honest then about what we don't know, we would all be moving forward with this sense of at least certainty in the power of our human capacity for love. But the human being ego, which is not our heart, prefers knowing and being certain to being honest. And so we are punished, and we punish ourselves if we don't know and are certain. So we're afraid if we don't know and we're uncertain. And here is where it gets nasty. When fear shapes our lives, safety becomes our God. When safety becomes our God, we worship the risk-free life. So a risk-free life is something where we are unwilling to give up the things we have been told to value, to discover what it is that we truly value. And these things that we're being told right now, that there's this side over here that wants this, and this side over here and wants that, and we're having two different complete conversations. What everybody wants, everybody at their heart of hearts wants, is to love and to be loved and to feel free within that. But we're being told these people want this and these people want that, and they're not the same. We are all the same. But we're so afraid that we can't give up what we call our sense of security to be able to stand in the same place. And the risk-free life is banking on things that really aren't giving us security anyway, which is what we've all found out. So what we have to do is figure out how fear gets our ear. There's a wonderful sociologist, actually, I have no idea whether he's wonderful or not, but his theories are very interesting, called Barry Glassner. And he tells us that we are living in, statistically, at least perhaps up to this year, the safest time in human history. And yet we are the most terrified people in the history of the world. Even though we're safer, we're much more scared. And that's because the media has been ramping up its fear-mongering. And it does this through a series of techniques. Repetition. It repeats something over and over again. People I know right now who have been particularly stressed out, anxious, freaked out, scared, I tell them something my friend Karen told me: turn off the news. And they look at me like, what? I can't turn off the news. The news has my information. The news. Yesterday I was talking to a client of mine and she said, I got to tell you something. We were just about to hang up. I turned off the news, like you said. I said, you did? How'd it go? She goes, oh my God, I feel so much better. And I told my boyfriend too, and we're both turned off the news and we both feel so much better. I thought I needed it. I thought I needed it to tell me what was going on, but actually it was just scaring me. Now, I figure, and I said, right, if a meteor is heading toward your house, if there is something important that you need to know, someone is going to tell you. Your best friend is going to call you and say, oh my God, the meteor is heading toward your house. And if you go out and you don't know you're supposed to be out, I'm sure someone's going to tell you. If you go out without a mask or the proper thing, someone is going to let you know you're not allowed to do that. So the bottom line is that repetition of fear, because that's how they get their advertisers, is one way fear gets our ears. It tells us something over and over and over again until we come to believe it's true. The depiction of isolated incidents as trends. Something comes up. This happened to me in the middle of the night. I was having to make a big decision, and there were mice in my house. And all of a sudden, the mice in the house, and they were loud enough to wake me up, were a factor in my decision. Well, I can't stay here. There are mice, because it was 2 a.m. And all of a sudden it was like, what? We lived in a world populated with mice. There are solutions for mice. But at 2 a.m, that little isolated incident, fear was saying mice, 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 like I was in some 50s horror movie with giant mice. Misdirection, another one. Misdirection is a magician's trick. Basically, magicians get us to agree to look at what they want us to look at so they can get the thing going, so that when we look back, there is the magic trick. The key to misdirection is we have to willingly agree to do it. You go to a magic act, you know you're going to be fooled. You kind of want to see if they're going to fool you, but you're agreeing to be fooled. By tuning into the news, by doing so many of the things that we do, by buying into systems that actually don't work, and we know they don't work, we are willingly choosing to be misdirected into believing in the illusory promise of safety and security. So what's the solution? Okay, first of all, you have to face your fears, and it's not fun. But even though it seems terrifying, actually inviting your I don't know in is a huge relief. The moment you say to yourself, I don't know, there's this absolute sense of a weight being lifted from your chest. I've had a decision I was facing over the last couple of days, well, actually last couple of weeks, and I did not know. But I know now that when I say I don't know, I'm going to feel better. Instead of, well, I should know. Well, I have to know. I've got to know by this time. Why don't I know? All of that just tightens you up into this ball. But if you can say, I don't know, because here's the thing. Fear wants us to believe that not knowing is scary. In fact, we really don't know. Yesterday, this thing came up that said, massive thunderstorms for the next 9 hours. Now, I've been here for 2 months where I am, so I have a vague idea of what their thunderstorms are like. So I have more of an idea. I know more about thunderstorms than I did 2 months ago. I know that probably the internet won't go out or the electricity won't go out. I know that the basement actually might flood. I know that it's going to get dark and it's long rumbling thunders, but I don't know. They've told me there are no tornadoes here, but really, because this is climate change, what do we really know? I'm going to get to that in a second. But what we actually don't know is the right head answer, because the head answer is never the right answer. So own your I don't know by giving yourself permission not to know. You are giving yourself permission to say, I don't have this answer. And trust me, it's going to be like this huge weight off your chest. Now, here's why. There is one fear that psychologists agree is the one fear to rule them all. It is the root fear behind all fears. And it is the reason we seek the false safety and supposed control of knowing what is ultimately unknowable. That is the fear of the unknown. So we might call it fear of dying. We might call it fear of being fired. We might call it fear of losing a loved one or having someone leave us or losing our job or fear of the economy crashing. We can call it anything. But the one fear to rule them all is the fear of the unknown. So if we are afraid of that, And we don't actually recognize that the fear of the unknown comes from the fact that humanly, almost everything is unknown. Then we are stressing ourselves out unnecessarily. And so all of those questions, what happens when we die? How do we lose everything? How would we face a grave illness? What if we haven't saved enough? What if we get fired? Look at that commercial that said, here's your number. Here's your number for retirement. Great. So over the last 2-3 years, with the stock market skyrocketing up, those people who have saved, and 70% of all Americans have not, but those people who have saved might feel fantastic. I have my number, and then that number changes because it's getting bigger, and all of a sudden in the last few weeks or months, it is not getting bigger. You think you know, you don't know. That's because we're relying on things that are not our actual source of knowing. So first of all, by facing down our fears, we have to recognize that fear is a liar. Fear needs us to exist. We are its host body. And fear is always throwing out false evidence appearing real. That mouse. The next day I talked to a couple of people. I read some things. I didn't want to kill the mice. So I went in, somebody said, go check this. I did. And I cleaned that up. Somebody said, try this essential oil. I did. Somebody said, try light. Somebody said, try this. I tried all of them and it's working. I haven't killed any mice. And certainly that sort of 1950s big mouse movie is not going on in my head in the middle of the night. Fear wants to come in and get us to believe it. And why? Because when we do, it gets us to pay attention to it as opposed to the only thing that is real. I'm going to get to that in a second. So here are some of the things that fear wants us to believe. That safety is the most important thing. But safety in what fear says is safe. Because look at what's going on right now. Half the people are saying, if we don't work, the whole economy is going to crumble, and our safety lies in having a strong economy. Half the people say the safety lies in staying home, because if we don't stay home and keep our numbers down, there aren't going to be people to have an economy. We're missing the fact that there is a larger truth to be had in there because we're so concerned with having a conversation about false ideas of safety. What is safe in there is people cooperating with one another and communicating with one another about the true sense of safety, which is human compassion for one another. The need for control. We all want this sense of control. If I do this, then I'm going to be in control. Really? Okay. How's that working for you right now? The desire for one right way. That was a big one for me because my mother had me believe that there was one right way, and if I just worked really hard, I might figure it out. There isn't. There is not one right human way. The right way always is guided by love, but that's a bigger sense of love. The assurance of authority. People want to believe that if somebody says it's okay, it's okay. We're all learning that's not true. Medical doctors are going home at night saying, the protocol changes constantly. I have no idea what I'm doing. The only thing that's getting me through this is my faith, because there's got to be something bigger than this mess. And the belief that knowledge, our heads, are our source of power. So back to Richard Rohr, and this was a real turning point for me. He says that there is this existential terror about losing what you've never found. Something in us says, I haven't done it yet. I haven't experienced the stream of life yet. I haven't touched the real, the good, the true, the beautiful, which is, of course, what we were created for. If we've never lived, we will be terrified of death. But here's the irony. We're all so worried that we haven't lived, and we're all so trying to protect our lives that we're not living. Here we are in this opportunity to connect with one another, and we're seeing it in beautiful ways. People standing on balconies playing music, people getting to know their neighbors because they're talking to them in different ways. People like me who are having their entire sense of what they were supposed to do and be for an entire year uprooted and having to start completely over. We're actually living for the first time because we're not trying to protect our fear of not having done it. We're actually living. If we've never lived, we will be terrified of death. That's really interesting. So by invoking our I don't know, this is what we have to recognize. The mindset that creates every problem is fear. The fear that we aren't good enough, that we aren't thin enough, that we don't have enough money, that we won't live long enough, that we don't have the right people, the right connections. We build those up into all these problems that become cemented into being us. Look at right now. We have so much fear right now about what's going on, and we're trying to solve that problem with more fear. But the answers aren't going to come from the old ways of rushing through this or running back to that or pulling back from this. The answers are going to come from listening to our hearts and letting them guide us. Every single great discovery in history, you will hear that someone was driven to be that scientist or that mountain climber or that mathematician or that leader by love. The ones that have changed the world, and the ones that we look at and we remember either with horror or have forgotten about are the people who did it from ego. So the mindset that heals every problem is love, and what we don't know will set us free. It's the same equation. And so you have to be willing to face your fears and then find your faith. Now, faith is a tricky word, because for many it connotes this kind of religious thing. And so I had the pleasure of chatting very briefly with Richard Rohr one-on-one about what faith meant to him. And he said, well, he thought about it. He's such a thoughtful person. And he said, faith, if you think about it, is another word for trust. And trust is another word for believing. And I thought, well, everybody has something they believe in. So to find your faith, you have to get quiet enough and calm enough in that initial facing your fears of what you don't know to ask yourself, what do I really believe in? So for me, I believe in my dog, Allie. I believe in the love that comes through this beautiful creature who shows up every day in love to me. I believe in the love that comes from all the animals that I'm surrounded with every day, the birds and the squirrels and the salamanders, and even that mouse that taught me something that I needed to know. Animals are a place I actually find what I believe in, because it's not as complicated as humans. I believe in nature. I believe in nature because every single day nature shows me its resiliency. Every single day nature shows me this beauty that makes me understand that I didn't have to do anything to be worthy of looking out at, I'm looking out my window right now at these gorgeous trees. And I think, what did I do to deserve that? Nothing. They're just here, and they're providing shade, and they're providing nutriments, and they're providing beauty. And I believe in my own spiritual practice, which has a lot to do with being in nature, but getting quiet, whether I'm walking or sitting, and really learning to listen. Those are things I believe in. And funnily enough, those things that I believe in actually are vast, echoing, and godlike. They're not the little form of control that I keep trying to hold on to so desperately that I believe is going to make me feel safe. They actually are this letting go. You know, when we climb to the top of a mountain, when we get someplace with a big view, there's this sense of expanse in front of us. And that is actually what we feel when we find our faith that what we don't know is here to show us what we need to know and what we know deep down. So feeling your faith is so important right now. Remind yourself, and this is a really important one, remind yourself of all the ways and times that you have been okay, or maybe more than okay. Because fear will have you say, you need this, you have that, you got to have that. What if this isn't there? What if that isn't there? But if you can just Drill down to the nitty-gritty. In that time that I felt fear, I was okay. I called that person. I prayed. I listened. I went for that walk. I was okay. Remind yourself of all the ways you have felt love, especially if fear is screaming at you. I don't have anyone. I'm going to die. Somebody the other day on the phone was in such a panic, literally saying, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. How do you answer that? You answer it by drilling down to something simple. And in this case, I gave this person the perspective of all that was triggering that, and then reminded this person of the ways that they were okay and loved. And then when that has brought you to a place of calm and you can feel your heart again without it just pounding out of your chest, invoke your I don't know as an invitation to listen for what fear has not allowed you to hear. Because that is the whole point of this exercise. I have a poem I want to read to you that illustrates this. There is no controlling life. Try corralling a lightning bolt containing a tornado. Dam a stream, and it will create a new channel. Resist, and the tide will sweep you off your feet. Allow, and grace will carry you to higher ground. The only safety lies in letting it all in, the wild and the weak, fear, fantasies, failures, and success. In the choice to let go of your known way of being, the whole world is revealed to your new eyes. So by facing your fears, letting yourself feel them, but diving below them, inviting in the I don't know, and going past the fear that brings up to the faith that you have in what you have learned about love, about being cared for. And that often comes through gratitude. In the willingness to let go of this illusion of control through your known way of being, you begin to hear what fear has not allowed you to hear. And in this way, the whole world is revealed to your new eyes, because what we begin to hear is the language of love. And that is when you free yourself. You free yourself from your false self, from the self that believed that they needed to control everything, that they needed to know everything. And you step in to a world where you are listening to your heart. And you are listening to others' hearts. And you're listening to the heart of the planet. And when you listen to your heart, you are speaking the language of love and hearing with the language of love. And that is the practice of I don't know. It is to face your fears, to find your faith, to feel your faith, and to be willing to free yourself of all the false ideas of self and let I don't know show you what love knows.
Wow, Victoria, thank you so much for that. That is such a timely message. Isn't it interesting how these things come together? I've noticed with my podcast and with the video, it's like some of the messages right now are just on point for where the world is in this moment, and just the right kind of encouragement. And so,
Absolutely. I think, it's interesting because obviously this has been coming through me for years now. But when this all hit, I remember thinking, wow, it's like I know somebody who just became a nurse, and they just finished all their training, and they moved from Canada to the United States to become a nurse. Wow, right? You know, what timing? I mean, I think if you want to feel like you've been called to be of service, what could be more of service than being a nurse, right? But that's sort of how I felt with all of this. It's like, oh my gosh, this whole training of practicing listening to my heart and letting go of this belief that there is one right way and there's something that, you know, that we all should know, and there's a system that works. And all of a sudden, you know, to be able to share that with people in a way that has proven to me that this actually is so much more safe and secure. And that's not to say that I don't have my panic moments, and not just because of mice, you know, um, but absolutely this sense that if we've all been doing our work, we're being given the opportunity to use it right now.
Mm-hmm. And it's these messages of hope, it's these messages of, you know, empowerment, really, that we do have a choice.
Yes.
You know, that the things we can, quote, control, if you will, would be how we choose to view things, how we choose to think about it, and the story that we write because of it.
Yes. Absolutely.
Those are the things we have a certain amount of control over. And so I love it. It's just so absolutely perfect for the time that we're in. And I'm excited to have people hear a different message.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share it. I mean, when you brought this up, I thought, oh, this is perfect. Thank you.
Yes, and you know, partnering together during this time, something like this, where, you know, a lot of people in my world who are authors and speakers and trainers on stages are finding that their life is turned upside down, and the way that we do life, the way that we do business, the way that we do what we do has been taken away for the moment, at least. And what does it look like to be resilient and not give in to the fear and find new ways? And I feel like I have this wonderful platform that I can offer.
Yes.
If someone's willing to say yes to me, you know, they have the opportunity to still do their thing. It's a different form maybe, but it gets the message out, and it continues to have a perpetual impact because it's recorded, right? And so
Yes.
it's my way of contributing, I guess, to the greater healing of the situation, and
Yeah.
helping someone is to say, hey, I've got this platform, let's use it to encourage people to think higher thoughts and to make
Yes.
better choices, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you
Thank
so
you for
much,
what you
Victoria.
do.
It has been such a great It's been such a great message, like I said before. And I want to thank you for taking the time to say yes to me twice, because you're also going to be on my podcast. This video launches first, and then the podcast will launch closer to June. But that you are willing to entrust me with your message, and just for sharing so authentically from your heart, something that's so needed to be heard right now. So I really just honor you for stepping up and sharing a message that's different but so impactful.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Truly.
Absolutely. So today, my friends, think about these things. Take some time to get quiet and think about, what are we fearing? What are we putting our faith in? We could be putting our faith in the thing that's causing the fear. So let's be a little bit mindful and just take a moment. No judgment, just observation about where we're putting our faith, where we're putting our energy. Let's reevaluate, because together we really can come through this worldwide quarantine, and we could make some changes that would be so incredible for our world, for our families, our communities, our states, our countries, right? This is an opportunity. It's such a unique opportunity to reset and go in a new direction, a better direction, knowing more of ourselves and the best of ourselves. So please, please subscribe down below. Click the link to subscribe. I'll have links to Victoria and her resources. She has 2 books. And also, friends, please share this message. Share this video with your friends. Blast it out on your social media. Let's get this message of positivity and love and hope out. Let's fight back against the fear together, because we're so much more impactful as a team, working together, not being afraid of each other, but finding the ways that we can become a greater good together. Let's do this. Please share this video with your friends, and thank you so much for joining us each time that we launch a video. And thank you for subscribing, and thank you for being a part of this community. And please don't forget to comment so Victoria knows how this has impacted you, because it's good to know. It's good to have a conversation around the things that are positive. So thank you so much, friends. We look forward to sharing more inspiration with you in the future weeks to come. Take care, my friends.